All right, welcome back to another podcast episode. Today we're going to be talking with Dr. Carl from Trifecta Light, who knows everything there is and highly supports the very popular health health promoting process of red light therapy. So welcome to the show, Carl.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I love talking about something that I'm so passionate about.
Excellent, excellent. Why don't we start where the beginning for most people is explain to them what red light therapy is and when did this become such a positive benefit for people?
So red light therapy is I've been doing this for I've been a chiropractor for 47 years, and I was, a hippie back in the 1970s. I went to a very fine school, Stony Brook University out of New York, and I don't know. My goal was to help people, and my focus wasn't money as much. And I did a lot of research, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to become a chiropractor. And traveled all the ways out to California to the best school at the time in the world was in Los Angeles, and 4 years there. In that whole period of time, I learned a lot about natural healing, like I'd never dreamt of before, and I had a great experience. My goal is to help people, and I got I got a lot of people appreciate. They were very appreciative of what I could offer them. And I'm skirting around your question because I'm going to get there, but what I want to mention to you is that about 27 years ago,
Hang
give
on a
or
second,
take, I
Carl.
was in.
Let's start that over. I figured out what my issue was with my
I
microphone.
can't do it better than that. That was the best ever.
I'm sure you've opened with this many times. Sorry to do this, but I
No
finally
problem.
figured out what the issue was. So we'll
I,
start this over. I'll cut this out and
you're
then
absolutely right. I've been lecturing all over the country for years, and
yes,
in this particular subject, I'm sure I've spoken to at least 60 audiences, live
yes,
and Zoom, or
yes,
some
yes, I'm
version of
sure.
Zoom.
And the fact I've watched a couple of videos with you, and obviously you're very passionate about this, so that always makes it easy to talk about things, right?
It is, yeah.
Absolutely. All right, one more time. Here we go. All right, welcome back to another podcast. Today we have on the show Dr. Carl from Trifecta Light, and he is going to talk all about the benefits, the history, and all of the good practices that come from red light therapy. And this is something that's new over the past maybe 5 6 years that has really taken off in the health industry and the health and wellness industry, and Dr. Carl is going to talk to you all about that today. So welcome, Dr. Carl.
Thank you so much. I love talking about red light therapy and try to share the information and try to get the story straight for people because there's a lot of misunderstanding out there. When something's really great, you're going to find a lot of copies and a lot of people who are going to come out with, quite frankly, junk. And I just wanted to make sure people understood what they should be looking for and what benefits they can, get from such a thing. I'm
Uh,
in love with this stuff. And as you mentioned before, when you're passionate and you have strong belief in something, even if you're a lousy communicator, it's very easy to spread the word, so to speak. And when your audience understands what we've seen and what it's blow, you'll see. I will talk to you about that. But I just wanted to give you my history. So I started in the early 70s researching the possibility of becoming a chiropractor. I love the idea. So I've been a chiropractor for 47 years. Started with the research early 70s. I found that every chiropractor I interviewed back then loved what they were doing. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be of help. But money was not as big a focus for me at the time. I don't mind making money, but helping people was even more important to me. And yeah, so I started 1978. I actually started my practice, and it's been fun ever since. Having a lot of people very grateful for what I've been able to do. But then about 27 years ago, give or take, when I thought I knew everything, I mean, I was 20 years into my practice at that point, and I was introduced interestingly enough, by a medical doctor into the world of red light therapy. And red light therapy is it's interesting, right? You get this medical doctor that's handing me something that looks like a flashlight, and he's telling me, yeah, just shine it on people and it's going to make a big difference. And I don't know how many different ways I rolled my eyes when I thought he was full of crap. And but he convinced me to try it, and we brought it into our practice, and it revolutionized my practice. I was able to heal things I never believed possible before. So this lady comes in, she goes, I have gum disease. You think you can help me? Now, at the time, the only thing, they didn't know how it worked, but the only thing they knew for sure is it couldn't hurt. In fact, in the 50 years of the technology having been studied, there's never been a recorded side effect. You couldn't hurt somebody with this technology if you tried. So she said she had gum disease. We tried it on her, and guess what? We helped her with her gum disease. And this guy had a kidney issue, and we helped him with his kidney issue. I wasn't going to tell people I'm all of a sudden an expert at kidneys. I mean, I knew a lot about it, but for a lot of different reasons, including legal reasons, I couldn't start saying I'm a kidney expert. But man, we were able to help kidneys. And this guy comes in with a ripped Achilles tendon, and he was slated for surgery. In fact, I sent him to the surgeon, and the surgery was going to be on Saturday, and we saw him on Monday. So we said, well, let's treat you every day. When he went Friday for the surgical review, we saw him every day with the laser at that time, and he didn't need the surgery. And pretty much that was the beginning of me realizing, okay, this is really cool, and we could really help a lot of people. And that's with equipment that is thousands and thousands of times weaker than what we currently have. But at the time, that was the state-of-the-art equipment. Then, about 13 years ago, give or take, it was discovered that there was an element of light that actually helped to shrink fat cells. Now, you know how popular fat loss is. I mean, it's everywhere, and people are willing to inject stuff into their body that may or may not have horrible side effects. Sometimes they don't care. They want to lose the weight, and imagine now we're learning that this was 13 years ago. We learned that there was an element of red light that actually could help reduce fat in an individual, completely healthy, not damaging anything. You're not freezing the fat. You're not boiling the fat. You're not lasering the fat. You're not using radio frequency or ultrasonic cavitation. All of those things are about destroying fat cells. And people have a warped notion that we're born with extra parts that we can just destroy and get rid of. The fat cells are essential tissue, and I'm not a big fan of destroying anything. Chiropractors are not about putting anything in the body that doesn't belong there or yanking anything out that does belong there. It's about trying to enhance and help the person with what they got. As a matter of fact, chiropractic is about removing the interference and then getting the heck out of the way, because there is this thing called innate intelligence that the body knows what it needs to do, but sometimes there's something that gets in its way. Maybe it's the habits of the individual, how they sleep, stand, sit, beds, pillows, chairs, car seats, shoes, maybe how they eat, how they drink, whatever it is. Try to not hurt the body, not get in the way of the body, and let the body do its thing. But what we found is that red light therapy enhances that innate intelligence, enhances the body's ability to do even better at what it needs to do. So there we are 13 years ago learning about fat loss. And that's when I said, you know what? I'm going to get involved with manufacturing, because I knew that this was hot. And so we were involved with lasers and pads and panels and all kinds of good stuff. And we were having very nice results with that, mostly for fat loss, but also for general healing and skin conditions and stuff like that. But then COVID hit, and that affected all of us. And when COVID hit, my practitioners came to me, and by that time we had hundreds of locations all over the country, and they were asking for a technology that would allow them to be able to treat somebody without as much physical contact between the patient and the provider. We came up with the bed. Now, the bed is pretty interesting, but we only built it as a substitute for what we had had up until that point. And again, what we had at that point was mostly pads at that point that we were developing. And again, mostly for fat loss. So we developed bed, and we started shipping them out within a month of the first series of delivery of beds. we were starting to get feedback that was surprising. I'm telling you, surprising. So, for example, Arnett. Now, Arnett was having a heart attack. I had never heard of this before. He was having a heart attack once, if not twice a week. And this had been going on for a dozen years. Hundreds of heart attacks. And every time he died, the defibrillator that they had implanted in his chest 12 years ago would zap him back to life. But by the time we saw him 12 years down the road and hundreds of heart attacks down the road, he was really on his last leg. On top of that, it's depressing. I mean, he was really sad, is the best way I could put it, about where his life was going because he didn't have any. He used to be an athlete. He didn't have any of the energy for anything. Just walking around the block was a huge chore for him. And a practitioner calls me up and says, should I even treat this guy? I'm nervous about that. I don't want him having a heart attack in my office. And I said, why don't we just treat him for 5 minutes and stay in the room the whole time? And let's see what happens. That patient goes home that night. And that was almost 2 years ago. Now he's had more treatment, but he's never had a heart attack again since. Hundreds of heart attacks, no more heart attacks. Blood pressure normal, pulse normal. Everything has come back to life. In fact, he said that the term he uses that his energy is now through the roof. His erectile dysfunction is gone. His everything is functioning beautifully. So that's when we started realizing we were really onto something with the bed. And what we've since learned is that when you bathe the whole body from head to toe, front and back, left and right, inside and out, and affecting as many cells of the body, bathing the whole body at the same time is what makes the difference. So that's why I believe strong. I don't mind people getting masks and helmets and all that stuff. Fine. No problem with that. But if you really want the glorious kind of changes in your life, like autoimmune disease, like we had this lady, she had 3 forms of psoriasis. She had plaque psoriasis, goutate psoriasis, and psoriatic arthritis. She had 13 other serious conditions, but those were the first things she brought up was her psoriasis. And within 2 weeks, now she had 20 years of problems with psoriasis. And after a couple of weeks, it was all resolved. The psoriatic arthritis that she had resulted in what's called dactylitis, which means sausage toes. So her toes, some mornings she would wake up, they were swollen and black and blue and very painful. And within 2 visits, that stopped. And did I expect that? Not necessarily, no. But all we know is it can't hurt. And all we do know is that it has helped a tremendous amount of problems. That same lady had horrific Lyme disease, which was destroying, as she put it, her gut, so to speak. And her Lyme disease was better, her everything, her thyroid, her liver, her heart, her kidneys. She had numerous kidney stones that she would pass over her life. One kidney stone is extremely painful. She had hundreds of kidney stones. And the red light helped to resolve that issue, the pain for sure. So, yeah, just one beautiful story after another. So I got to tell you how and why it works. But first, I'm going to ask you, do you have any questions?
Yeah, because I have a few people that listen to this podcast and know my story. I'm very skeptical of a lot of things. And there's a lot of claims that are made from supplements and programs and products that are hard to back up. The red light therapy does have scientific data behind it as being beneficial. I'd like you to get, we're obviously not suggesting that the red light therapy repaired a torn tendon, and we're certainly not saying that the guy with the tendon tear, it's not going to repair a tendon. But what it is going to do, and maybe you can speak to this, is how does it? What's its mechanism? Obviously, the body can repair itself when it's like you said, getting things out of the way. And I've had chiropractors on the show. I'm a firm believer in chiropractic care for sure. So, what's the mechanism? do you believe that is causing these
Not
drastic
about a
changes?
belief thing. First of all, as far as research is concerned, if you go to Google Scholar, which is
Yeah,
scholar.google.com,
yeah,
and put in the phrase red light therapy, would you be surprised that you would find 3.5 million entries of double-blind studies, research papers, articles, all kinds of information? So you
sure.
put in red light therapy, a phrase, and then whatever else you want to study, whether it's lupus, whether it's, as I already mentioned, Lyme disease, shingles. You said for sure that it would not heal a tendon, and I'm telling you, we do it all the time. In
So you're
fact, that was
you're
the
saying
first.
that you have a completely torn tendon, and red light therapy will repair that
Almost.
tendon.
No, okay. I'm telling you that when you talk about a torn tendon, it's almost always a percentage of tearing. So when we're talking about the Achilles, they'll talk about a 25% rip,
Sure.
a 50% rip. This guy was 75% rip, and it was healed. Now he's always going to have a
75%, because
problem there.
75% is automatic surgery. The doctor
Okay. No,
will
I
recommend
told you that.
surgery.
I sent the guy to the surgeon. I'm the
And
one that sent him to the
this
surgeon.
repaired a 75% tear.
We did.
Okay. You can understand why
I was as
people.
surprised as you would be. I didn't
Correct,
think.
because
I said, "Look, you're gonna have the surgery on Saturday." We started treating him on Monday. I said, "What's it gonna hurt? We know it couldn't hurt, right?" I'm
sure.
telling you, in the 50 years that they've studied this technology, there's never been a recorded side effect, ever.
So what do you think the mechanism is, though? Like,
I'm
what
gonna tell you the
how is the body
mechanism.
doing this?
I wanna drag it out until the last minute, so I wanna see you sweating before I tell you. I wanted to remind you that I have treated tens of thousands of patients, that I have worked with. I've had 12 practices, 40 something years in practice, and chiropractors love toys. We've hyperbaric chambers, cold plunge, EMF, this thing, and whatever, all kinds of stuff. Chiropractors love toys. I've had them all, or had a lot, and they were good. I always looked at them. I thought they were great until this bed, and now I see what miracles are. So now I've built up suspense long enough. So let's talk about how it works. There's two separate mechanisms. About 13 years ago, they discovered that there was an element of red light. Now maybe I should talk about the words red light
And
and
infrared.
infrared. So there's red light, and red light is red light. And then there is infrared. Now, infrared is invisible to the naked eye, and there's really no such thing as just infrared. It's either far infrared or near infrared. Far infrared is the most common thing when you hear about infrared saunas, infrared tables and pads, and things like that. It's a nice way of getting deep penetrating heat, and that's it. It's about heat. It's lovely. But you're not going to see long-term changes like I'm going to describe with near infrared. When we first came out with near infrared 20 years ago, it was called cold therapy, cold laser, cold, whatever, or even low-level laser therapy, LLLT. You can look all these different things up. That's where it started from. And the notion was you didn't want heat because heat would dilate blood vessels, bring more fluid to the surface of the body, and block the penetration of the light. So the beauty of near infrared is that it doesn't get hot. And if you get into a device that does get hot, they're using junk equipment. You want the highest grade medical equipment possible. And that equipment is strong without heat. That's the beauty of that. So when someone goes and tries this equipment here and it's really strong and hot, and this equipment over here that doesn't get hot, they go, "Oh, this is better." Guys, we're not
'Cause they
looking
f
for heat.
Right,
We're
'cause they
looking for
feel like
effect.
something's working, right?
So let's talk about the one mechanism, which is red light only. It's not about near infrared at all, and it's called fat loss. What they discovered is that there is a couple of wavelengths within the red light range that have been shown to affect the fat cell wall, and it makes the fat cell wall more porous. And they didn't know this when it first happened. When it was first discovered, it was by accident by a plastic surgeon, and he noticed if he did red light therapy before he did the surgery, the fat came out easier. So it was assumed that the fat was being melted, all kinds of stuff. Turns out that's not what happened. That the fat cell wall, and this took a while for them to discover, is that it's a change in the permeability of the fat cell wall to allow the contents to leak out. And then with the special protocol, we move the fat away from the fat cells into the lymphatic system and to the liver for use or elimination. It's as simple as that. So I don't, I'm a healer. I love the fact that fat loss, that it's effective, because there's almost nothing more popular than fat loss, for sure. So if you can offer fat loss and also healing, isn't that beautiful? So that's fat loss. And of course, you want to combine that fat loss red light therapy with a smart diet. A smart diet is not an overly restrictive diet, because there's not a lot of people that know as much about fat loss as I do. I was raised by a mother who was an executive of Weight Watchers. Thank you very much. I studied it. I really, I never had a good thing to eat again once she became that executive, but bean sprouts instead of spaghetti and all that stuff. But at any rate, with that said, and this was old style Weight Watchers. They changed over the years, but at any rate, so that was the thing about fat loss, and I've studied it. And when my patients could lose the weight, wouldn't that be great? Because it would take the burden off the spine. They would do better. But there are people that have difficulty in losing the fat for a number of reasons. One, some people are obsessed with food. They just love it. They can't stop thinking about it. And then there are other people who have hormonal issues or health issues that restrict or make it difficult to lose the fat. So when you combine a neutral diet, it's called a calorically neutral diet, with the red light therapy, the results have come out to be very nice, very excellent. So that's a separate subject. Now I want to get to the miracle that I want to talk to you about, which is the near infrared. So, and again, when I talk about red light, that's red. When I talk about near infrared, that's near infrared, which is invisible to the naked eye. But when I talk about red light therapy, that's the integration of red and near infrared together. We were the first company to do that 12, 13 years ago, integrating red and near infrared together, because red is somewhat healing, but it does the fat loss also. Near infrared doesn't do anything for fat loss. So now, how does this work? So I'm going to use some biology 101. When I went to school, I learned that there was one mitochondria in every cell. So your body's made up of tissues. Every tissue is made up of cells. And so we're going to affect every cell, conceivably every cell in your body that we can reach. That's why bathing the whole body at the same time is so important. But what's it about? It's about the mitochondria. So what is the mitochondria? The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the body. And it's the reason why you and I breathe oxygen and eat food, to produce this important molecule called ATP. It's the energy currency of the body. And if you have ATP in plenty, and the other word is mitochondrial dysfunction. If you don't have mitochondrial dysfunction, we have a properly functioning mitochondrial system, you will be able to fight off almost anything and heal an Achilles tendon and heal from almost anything. Again, chiropractors are about innate intelligence, removing the interference and allowing the body to do its thing, and add red light therapy and other things. I'm not saying other things wouldn't be smart as well, but we have found red light therapy to be unbelievable. And I know I sound crazy, but what am I supposed to do when people call me up with these miracles and they say consistently, thank you for giving me my life back? So getting back to how it works, what they found was that mitochondria, again, when I went to school, we learned that there was one mitochondria in every cell, and that's not true. The heart, which has the highest demand for energy, has over 5,000 mitochondria in every cell. So would it surprise you that learn that the mitochondria in your body makes up 10% of your body weight? And I need that to sink in, because you're made up of skin and bone and fluid and all kinds of stuff. And what does the mitochondria come from to make up 10% of your body weight? And that's to give you an idea how prevalent it is, how important it is. And what they learned is that there is a enzyme that is in the wall of the mitochondria called cytochrome C oxidase. And it's stimulated by sunlight. And it's sunlight. We're talking about sunlight. It's why hundreds of years ago they told people, go sit out in the sun. It's why people who don't get enough sunlight are going to have problems. But what we've done is we've taken 4 glorious elements of sunlight, not the UV light, not other things that could be a problem like blue light, which can screw up the circadian rhythm. It's 4 glorious, 2 wavelengths of red light and 2 wavelengths of near infrared, integrated that together, multiply that many times or magnify that many times and drive it into the person's body. So we're taking elements of sunlight and driving it into the person's body. Sunlight's nice, but we're talking about thousands of times more powerful, affecting the body. And again, in 50 years of studying this, there's never been a recorded side effect. You couldn't hurt somebody if you tried.
So, a couple of questions. So, the mechanism of fat loss is that it's mobilizing the fat in order to get used as energy or expelled, correct? Would that be fair?
It's moving the fat contents out of the fat cell.
Correct. Correct.
Some
So
of
it's
not
mobilizing.
all the contents, some of the contents out of the
Sure.
fat.
So it's mobilizing it to for the body to expel it, burn it, or get rid of it. So then, obviously, we all know the sunlight is what we all need, and everyone feels better when they're on vacation in the tropics because they're getting more sunlight. And so this is basically taking that to a much higher level, correct?
Much higher level.
Much higher level. So you can't get this level from the sun, obviously.
Not only that, we're isolating and getting out of there some of the things that are in sunlight that are not as great for the body,
Sure. Like the UV rays,
like
obviously.
UV light.
So is there anybody that should not use this therapy? I believe the lights flash. Would that be a problem for someone who maybe is prone to seizures?
They don't flash. So let's talk about
Okay,
flashing in a second, okay?
sure.
If you're seeing lights flashing, then either that piece of equipment's broken or they don't know what they're doing over there.
Interesting.
Um, we do have the capability of pulsing the wave, but in order for you to see the pulsing, it would have to be under 100 hertz. And at that point, it's like a strobe effect. And then, yes, it's pulsing. So whoever set the setting don't know what they're doing, or they're using an old piece of equipment. With a modern piece of equipment, we're talking about thousands of hertz potentially pulsing the wave. But let me, before I go into pulsing the wave, I just want to make sure that we're good and understanding that its cytochrome C oxidase is stimulated, which stimulates the mitochondria to come back to normal. And that's what happens to bring the body to be able to heal from so many different things.
Right, because it's
And
in dysfunction.
as we work our way down the body, first of all, the lights can help with hair restoration, especially with women. As they get to a certain age, they talk about thinning of their hair because of maybe hormones or some type of medicine or stuff like that. And what we see is that that's halts within a month or two of using red light therapy, number one. And number two, often within the second or third month, it starts reversing and getting thicker. Keep working our way down now into the skull. It will penetrate the skull, get to the brain, and help psychological and emotional issues. So we had a lady that wrote me this note. It says, if this is how people feel every day, I can't believe I've been missing out all this time. And what she was talking about is I've interviewed a lot of people, and I'm going to send you a lot of these videos that you're welcome to share with your audience. I can't get her. I haven't gotten anyone with psychological or emotional issues to let me interview them because they're shy or whatever the wording it would be. But she's now great. She loves her life. And we get a lot of that. Now, some people are depressed because of how their body is a mess or whatever, but she was just depressed. And it wasn't from other physiological issues that we could figure out. So as we're working our way down, let's talk about the eyes for a second. People would think, well, I probably have to wear goggles. No, this is a light. It's not radiation. So it's not that we keep our eyes open. We just keep, if I'm telling you it can get through the skull, you know it can get through the eyelid. So why would we want to keep the eyes open? I'm sorry. Why do we want to not wear goggles and keep our eyes closed? You name anything in the eye, macular degeneration, macular edema, uveitis. We had a lady that the treatment for the uveitis was an injection in her eye once a month. and drops that cost her co-payment was $400 a month. And when I asked her, well, what's that like getting an injection in your eye? And she's like, oh, how horrible it was. And she doesn't need that anymore. Her eyes are fine. She doesn't, her pressure in one of her eyes was 180 when it's supposed to be closer to 10, 12. And now it's normal after just a couple of weeks of treatment. So I know it sounds, somebody, when I get people who are strong doubters, they'll go, oh, it's a placebo effect. And I'm willing to believe that in the beginning. I felt that way also in the beginning. It must be a placebo effect. But after using it for 27 years, seeing consistent results, especially as the lights get stronger and stronger without getting hot. See, we could have had very strong lights even 26 years ago, but they've been hotter than heck. Now we can have strong, and that's what happens to improve the process and improve the technology. But the essence is to get strongest lights possible that don't get hot. And that's the amazing effect. But you asked about pulsing the wave. So we pulse the wave because some of you people know about resonating frequencies and healing frequencies. Different tissues of your body resonate at different frequencies. And we can set the lights to resonate with different hertz, different pulsations. But anything under 100 hertz is going to seem like a strobe effect, especially as you get down to 75 or 50. And yes, with that, some people, like if they're like the main one I wouldn't put in there with that low of a strobe would be a epileptic, because lights could drive them crazy. So we can go all the ways to just on, period, on, 100% on, or we can pulse the wave depending upon the person's needs and issues. The other thing that you want to look for, so we got strong lights, the ability to pulse the wave. You want to have the lights as close to the body as possible. So some of these devices that are using cheaper equipment that get hot, they have to have the lights off your body. When you get in our bed, you bring the canopy, the top part down onto your body, not the weight of it, because the hydraulics that it uses to move the top canopy up and down will allow you to bring it as close to the body as possible, which is necessary for you to have even better results. As you come away from the body, you lose power exponentially. You don't want that. So you're looking for certain pieces of equipment that have the highest grade, medical grade lights that don't get hot, that come as close to the body as possible. And with our bed, we also can control the top canopy separate from the lower bed. Because as you might imagine, you might have some people have sensitivity on their face, so you might want to have less power on the top, or some sensitivities or need for less or more on the bottom. So we have that capability as well. So yeah.
That's
any other questions?
That kind of sets your product apart from others, what you're saying.
Yeah.
So the bed, I think you also sell panels too, is correct? Or what do you call
We
them?
sell pads.
Pads, yeah. But like you said, the bed is the best because it's getting the full body from head to toe.
It's not just that. Let me tell you, as a chiropractor, and as a businessman, what is it like to have the pad system, which I like, but that means we have to put it on the person, strap it on, and the individual often, as you might know, in this industry of aesthetics and healing in general, it's much more women than men. So you're going to have a female that you have to hire to do all this. Now, again, the reason why we created the bed was because you don't need staff at all. So you're saving yourself with the staff, but it's not just that. It's so simple. The person can get in the bed, out of the bed. It's easy. The only reason you need anybody is to go in and wipe the bed down and come out and say, okay, who's next? They get in the bed themselves. So I love the pads for what it is, but if you were going to give me a choice in my practice of which I'd rather have, I'm a bed man. Not only can I resolve so many other issues, but I don't have to deal with I don't have to have staff to do it, and I don't have to do with other issues. We've sold pads for, well, we still do. So that's 14 years of pad selling. But the bed is it started with COVID, really.
So this is something that you can purchase for your own home as well, correct?
Absolutely.
So
it's not the most common thing that people buy for their home because it's not a toy. This is a serious medical piece of equipment.
It's
So
pretty
when people
expensive, I
have,
would imagine.
I'm sorry, what?
It's pretty expensive, I would imagine.
It's $1,400 a month to
Oh, so
lease,
you pay a monthly fee to have it in your home.
right? I mean, you
Okay.
could buy it outright. It's about $60,000 plus shipping. So, I mean, there are a lot of people that do buy it for their home. People who don't realize how expensive it is to be sick is a good example. You have no idea what it costs to be sick. I'm 72 years old. Um, I'm doing everything I can to age, like I try to teach my patients to age gracefully. Um, and I use the bed 3 times a week without a particular ailment. And if I do have a sprain or something like that, I'm going to get in the bed even more often than that. Um, but if you want to, I liken it to a candle that burns really bright all the way from the beginning, all the way to the end, and then sputters out and dies. And that's what your life should be like, a long candle, hopefully, and then burning bright as much as possible, and not spend the last 20 years of your life in a wheelchair or not being able to wash yourself, feed yourself, or wipe yourself. I don't want that. I had patients. If you want to learn your lesson, become a chiropractor, and you have people come into the office, and I would say to myself, I wouldn't say it out loud, but I would say essentially, God, please don't let me wind up like that, because that person didn't take care of themselves. And you know why people don't take care of themselves usually is because they're not scared enough. They don't understand what they're doing today, what effect it's going to have when they're older. And if they were to have a conversation with their 75-year-old self at the age of 30, they might have their 75-year-old self saying, please don't do those things that you're doing. You're going to do me in. I mean, I had a lot of patients go, oh, I can drink a 6-pack every night and not, it doesn't bother me at all. And they think it has no effect on them down the road. And it will. It will. So, I'm not saying to never have any fun again. In our brains, with all the commercials and things, we learned that this food and this drink is a way to have fun. So do it less, just do it less and try to be healthier for yourself. That's what it comes down to. Incorporate. I believe now you can tell I am out of my mind. I had one of my staff members. I didn't ask her to do this, but she made this for me. Do you see that?
Yeah, get in the bed.
She made this muck for me because that's my attitude. It's like, it can't hurt. Try it for 6 visits. And if you don't see any change, which is pretty rare, then it's not going to work for you. I hardly ever hear that. I joke around and say, if you didn't see any difference after 6 visits, they probably forgot to plug it in. But at any rate, again, you couldn't hurt. You try 6 visits. That's 3 times a week for 2 weeks. And after 6 visits, if you don't see a difference, again, the worst that'll happen is nothing. You can't hurt yourself. Now, you asked before, I think, were there any contraindications? Who should not get in the bed?
Yes.
Did I answer that?
We talked about people with epilepsy, obviously for seizure disorders, I would imagine. Pregnant women, I would imagine,
That's
might
the
not.
only thing. Actually, seizures is not necessarily the reason I brought up epileptics is that you want to make sure that the pulsations of the light are not too low. But I still think, and then if you're really worried about it, you just have them wear goggles. The
Sure.
benefits of the light is so wonderful for the whole body that if we can get them in there, I would use it even on epileptics. But now let's talk about pregnant women. This country has one of the prime diseases in this country that other countries don't have as much of is called attorneyitis. Have you ever heard of that?
Uh, no, it sounds like
Too
it's
many
a
damn attorneys.
play on words. Yeah, I was gonna say.
And so there are just so many attorneys out there, and they will find some reason to sue you one way or the other. Now, getting to pregnant women, if that baby comes out anything other than perfect, that then right there is one of the most litigious communities on the planet. And so I would suggest if you have a patient that's pregnant, that you just tell her, okay, you know what? The day after you deliver, get in here, but while you're pregnant, we're not going to do this. Now, could it be dangerous to the fetus or the mother? Not at all. Not at all. But again, for some other reason, if that baby comes out anything other than perfect, you don't want to get blamed for any of that crap. So I just say, let's not treat a pregnant woman. And that's pretty much it.
So people that are on medications or supplements that make them a little bit more uh, photosensitive, it doesn't matter because this is not UV rays.
Correct. So
Correct. So
if you're asking about people who are being told don't go out in the sun because of this drug that you're taking,
right,
that's
or
that's
supplements.
not related to this.
Right, because of the difference in what the light is,
Correct.
as I understand it.
So there are
Excellent.
3 reasons to be involved with this. So you go to trifectalight.com, which is right here,
Yeah.
and on the contact us page, on the left side, it says, "Do you want to try this as a patient?" And try it. What we'll do is we can't post all the locations for privacy reasons, but if you just click on there and put in your information, we'll find the location closest to you.
Okay.
And if we can't find a location closest to you, then it is your job and your obligation to get one of the doctors in that area to get one of our beds. I'm, I'm kidding. And then so that's getting it as a patient. Then there were, as I said, there were 2 reasons to buy the bed. One, home use, and the other, even much more higher percentage of people who are going to buy it as a business. And we include 32 things with the purchase. So it's a business in a box. It's going to help. What we do is we include 32 different items that will help, including basic coaching, advanced coaching. I'm sorry, basic training, advanced training, and a coaching. We also have a coach that's part of this. We also include every file, folder, video form, whatever you're going to need. And of course, all the customer service to make sure that you're unbelievably successful. I hate to jinx this, but even today, I got several phone calls from people who would say to me, "Thank you, because you are absolutely right that this thing was great and their patients love it." And it's easy to build a practice out of that. So I would go to the website, check those things out. I would also go to our YouTube channel. Um, I don't know. Did you get our YouTube channel? I think you
Yep.
mentioned it, right?
Yeah, and I'll put all the links in the description of the
I'm also going to send you some show notes so you'll see
sure.
some videos that we have. I'm
Excellent.
sorry to use those of you that think I'm out of my mind because I am. But it's not. I'm. I've never treated anybody with the bed. I've been out of practice. I've only been concentrating on manufacturing and technology and helping people and educating. I lecture all. Just came back from Dallas. I'm going to be going to Vegas. I'm going to Hollywood on Tuesdays to do another class or whatever. And it's all about teaching and educating people as to how they can incorporate red light therapy into their lives. So I'm living vicariously through the successes of our practitioners, where we have hundreds throughout the country calling me up, telling me, for example, we have professional athletic teams that the athlete gets in the bed in the early part of the day and then performs much better that day, jumping higher, more stamina, all that stuff. And then they get it in the bed again that evening or the next morning to recover from that day's activity, whether it's a game or a workout. So this was particularly true with the Olympic Training Center because I had no idea how hard these kids, they're all young, relatively teenager to maybe 25, and they're all first class professional athletes. And their workouts are like 8 hours of intense workout. So their workout is much more intense than the actual activity that they're going to run for 3 minutes or whatever. And they normally would be at the end of the day exhausted. And even the next morning, they would wake up and physically, not 100%. But when they started using the bed, they noticed, wow, when they wake up the next morning, they're fresh as the term they use, fresh as a daisy. They're ready to go. So they get much more out of their workout, and they have much less likelihood of injuring themselves.
Sure. I mean, I think we all agree that cell regeneration and when the cell is working properly, everything in the body works properly. And this therapy is helping the cell work better. Is that fair?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
And the cell therefore the entire body
entire body.
can function much better. So there's mental issues, there's physical issues, there's physiological issues, there are hormonal issues that we're seeing great success with.
Yeah, and inflammation and all the things that you talked about is just all up. is usually an extension of a body in dysfunction, and usually from a cellular level, it's in dysfunction.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, excellent. I will definitely put all of the links that you send me down in the description of the podcast, and we'll put all the links to your website and any other information that you'd like to put on there. It was very informative. I know I may have started like I'm a doubter.
I
I'm,
don't blame you.
I everyone knows that I just like to dig into mechanisms of things, because if someone can make a claim of something and they can tell me how mechanistically it works, I am more apt to be believed. I can believe it more because I can see how that mechanism works.
Yeah,
So when you
I'm the
say
same
the
way.
cell works better, then okay, so that makes sense to me. You know what I'm saying? I'm still
Yeah.
a little skeptical on the torn tendon thing, but I take your word for it.
Well, again, if it's 100% torn,
Yeah.
that would be impossible. But if it's less than 100%, we've seen nice results.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
And so to that end, any musculoskeletal issue, muscle, tendon, ligament, bone, if you have a broken bone, if you can get into red light therapy, it'll heal much faster and much more completely. Um, so that's where it started. It started with orthopedics. It was an orthopedic surgeon that brought this to the United States, and we were doing it with orthopedic chiropractic kind of problems: muscles, tendon, ligaments, bones, joints, things like that. And the only reason it grew from there was when we did the full body. That's when we started realizing, wait, this is physiologically also amazing. We have Steve that had 40 years of Lyme disease, and in one session, it made such an interesting change in his life. I'm not going to tell you about it, but I'm going to send the video to you. Watch the one on Steve. Watch the one on Nat with the heart attacks. Watch the one with Jessica with 16 crazy, difficult issues that she had. And like I said, I love this stuff. The only reason I don't have more video, I mean, we've got dozens of them, but I'd have even more. I don't have the time to interview people constantly all the time.
Sure, sure. Excellent, excellent. Well, I appreciate your time. Appreciate you telling everybody all about this great new therapy, and we appreciate having you on the show,
All right, my pleasure. You take
Doc,
care.
Dr. Carl. Thank you so much.